Hi guys, welcome back to another Call Intuitive. I haven't been back or here for like, I don't even know how long. I have been grinding it out in every other capacity of my life. Really trying to tune out, best of my ability, the things that are going on in the world, for my own, a hummingbird. A little hummingbird came to my feeder, yay. I actually haven't seen one in a really long time, so maybe this is a good sign. It's time to communicate. But so I haven't actually been on the platform in a while. I deleted my Instagram, my TikTok. I kept my YouTube because I feel like I'll always come back to it. It's something that I use as like a creative outlet, and also just like to kind of touch base with the outside world, if you will, in the best way that I can, because like sometimes, to be real, like when we're locked in on, growing or bettering our lives, we don't typically get out in the world as far as like community is concerned. At least for myself, like I go full hermit. I don't know how many people are like that, but I definitely go full hermit when I'm really trying to focus on bettering some aspect of my life, or like it's like target practice, right? Like I'm like focusing on one house specifically in my life. And so lately it's been my sixth house and what that looks like and what that means for me. I am a sixth house Aquarius. I have a stellium there. I'm also an Aquarius sun. So it's very, very powerful for me. Very, eye-opening. There's a lot of mysteries and messages that lie within me being able to develop a routine. I shouldn't say mysteries and messages, but things are unlocked, right? Like things are unlocked when I pay attention to those aspects in my chart. Of course, all your aspects in your chart matter, whether you have a planet in the house or not. But for me, I chose like the sixth house. That just what kind of like shouted out to me a lot for this year specifically. Anyway, I'm fucking hot. I'm burning up. So if you see me sweating, it's a little muggy here where I live, and my AC is on, but she is struggling this morning. I don't really know. I also have candles lit, so that doesn't help. So yeah, I have with me, I already pulled the cards for this morning. Mostly because I just really have to kind of like move on with my day and keep it pushing, and I don't have time to really sit and like make a video from like, scratch, in the sense of, okay, we're shuffling and we're like finding out what we're doing today. Like, no, it's, I already kind of have my notes here. I have my cards pulled, and so we'll just kind of like touch base and get into it. I also have my Danish here because I needed a snack. I'm starving. And my coffee because yes. All right. So we can go ahead and dive in. For me this morning, let me just tell you, when I woke up this morning and I came out to make my coffee, there was a crow sitting on top of one of the garages in my development. And I was like, oh, hi. And I've been seeing crows a lot lately. There's crows everywhere. It's a very normal bird, but for some reason, more than usual, they've been really kind of speaking or calling, like beckoning my attention. And so I tend to pay attention to things when they happen, like kind of like in a pattern, or, I'm just very like I don't know if it's necessarily being in tune or if it's just like the way that I am. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Like the point is that sometimes when I see things too many times, I start to realize like, okay, we're having conversations here. I need to acknowledge this. What are you trying to show me? What are you trying to teach me? What is the message that you carry? It is my belief that everything around us carries a message, carries a story, history, records, whatever. And it's our job to decipher those things. And how we decipher those things is through meditation and spiritual connection, because I very much subscribe to the belief of oneness. Look it up if you don't know. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's basically the interconnectedness of all living beings and that we're all connected. Anyway, I saw this crow outside and was like, okay, this is the second day in a row that I've seen a crow in like kind of in my space, in my face a little bit. I like opened up the window and was like, I know my neighbors are like this bitch, but I'm like, hello, little crow. Right? I always feel like, I don't know if you've seen Shark Tale with Lenny, when he's like, Sebastian, there's something talking dolphin. That's how I feel. Oh, and that reminds me, girl, I saw a dolphin for the first time on the fucking equinox. I was so excited. We were in Santa Barbara and we were driving home and we were driving on the coast, and my son and I look over and we're just like, oh, the ocean, it's beckoning us. Oh, we gotta swim. Actually, it was the last day of summer. It was the final day of summer, the day before the equinox. The equinox is the 22nd. Holla. So this was on the 21st. So we're looking at the water and it's like, oh my God, it's so amazing. It's so beautiful. And this dolphin just, boop, I'm a dolphin all through the ocean. And it was so close to the shore that I was like, okay, A, be careful, honey, because we don't need you ending up on the beach, boo. But also, wow, thank you so much for being so close to me. Like I could literally see the water like beating off of your back damn near. You know what I mean? Like they were so close and they were in a little pod and like hanging out. And so we saw that pod and then we saw another pod. It was so cool, you guys. I had never seen a fucking dolphin before. Like in the wild, I don't even think I've seen it at a zoo. I don't think I've ever seen a dolphin at a zoo, you know? And I don't really fuck with that anyway. But like I was so excited and I was like, oh my God, I saw a dolphin on the last day of summer. That's so blessed, you know? And dolphins like really speak to me, and I'll get into that some other time if we want to talk about dolphins and like animal messages and just like dolphin brain repattering, like Pleiadians. Like that's when we get into the really woo-woo stuff. That's like really like, girl, you've lost your marbles. But yeah, my marbles are so lost that they're found. Okay. So anyway, we are going to talk back to the crow, not the dolphin, but the crow that has been really beckoning. And I love a crow regardless. I love a dark little bird that is just like, I'm looking at all of you and I know so much more than you even give me credit for. And I'm like, yeah, same. Same. And I love crows' energy. They're just so weird and like off-putting and they scare people just by being around, just by being themselves. Like people get uncomfortable with their energy. And I'm like, they are so powerful just in their own presence, honey. And so I started thinking about, oh my God, crows are so sick. They're awesome. I'm yelling out at my crow. I know like I said, my neighbors are probably like, this bitch is actually not well. And you know, the crow was like looking around like, Ho, is you here? Is you here? Looked down at me and was like, bitch. I was like, okay, no problem. So I shut my window and proceeded to make my coffee like I was supposed to. It basically told me to mind my fucking business. So I was like, okay, same. I will do that. Absolutely. Heard ya. I'm sat, as they say. So immediately though, it made me think of my crow tarot that I purchased not too long ago. And I was like, oh, I should probably pull with those cards today. I wasn't really fully sure if I was going to get on to YouTube today or not, but I knew for myself I needed to use the crow tarot since crows have been like really calling out in the spirit of oneness, right? And when it comes to an animal, I don't want to say totem, an animal experience or an encounter, sometimes, most of the time, I'll say like most of the time, like probably 50% of the time, I feel like it's a personal message for myself. But there's this other half of me that's like, yeah, but there's also so much, there's so many little hummingbirds right now, you guys. I'm so excited. There's so many little, like there's so much that can be shared with others. And in the spirit of oneness, in the spirit of connectivity, interconnectedness, right? It's like, it's my job, regardless, to share, even if it's like stupid as fuck, it's share my light, share my words, share my excitement, share my wisdom, share my energy, right? With all protection always, but like of my, you know, energy and my spiritual body. But like, I just feel like it's like, I'm supposed to fucking do that shit. So I'm like, okay, let me go do that real quick. So I saw the bird and I was like, okay, crow tarot. I take forever to explain a story, by the way. Gemini moon. So and Virgo rising. So there you go. Like I'm gonna be thorough. I'm gonna go back and I'll be like, did I say this part? Hold on. Did I say this part? Wait, I gotta tell you this part before I can tell you the other part. Okay. But let me also say real quick too. I really want my channel to feel like you're hanging out with your friend. I'm not like, and no shade on anybody that may be like this. I have nobody in mind when I say this at all. I'm just literally just like saying, I've tried it. I've tried to do the like, okay, I'm going to be like super like calm and like, I'm going to be calm and I'm going to deliver these messages like in this calm and like fashion. And sometimes I feel like that. Sometimes like I do have that calmness, but not all the time. And I'm very, you know, Gemini moon, honey. Like I'm very communicative and excited about that communication. And I feel very much like sometimes like when I'm one way and then other times I'm another way. Sometimes I'm really calm and like, we're going to have this conversation and it's going to be very like short and sweet and very like boom, boom, boom. And then other times we're going to have a conversation. We're going to be like, bitch, hold on. I got to pause this and rewind because I don't know what you just said. Okay. So I'll try my best to slow down. It's not my strong suit. It's just not my strong suit. I've heard it all my life. So I hope you get it. You know, I hope you get it. And I know and I trust that this message will reach who it's meant for, right? Yeah. Anyway. So I pull my tarot card. I pull my tarot deck. I get all my decks together and I'm like, okay, let me hop on ChatGPT real quick to kind of organize my thoughts because that's how I love to use ChatGPT. I don't care. Don't knock it unless you have tried it. For a bitch like me, I need ChatGPT. I need to organize my thoughts. It's like drinking from a fucking fire hose in there, right? Like I have to have something to pull me in. And though I practice grounding and meditation, I'm still very, very air sign, right? And so I still very much have like a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings and a lot of things that I'm trying to get out in like a short amount of time. I feel like I have to do. So it's like, okay, I need tools that help me do that because sometimes I don't have that, right? I'm learning how to have that more and more, and I'm better than where I was when I started, but I'm still very much in that process. And I think that every single person on the freaking face of the earth can attest to having that type of experience in their lives. So I'm not alone in that at all. Anyway, the message that really came through, like right when I was like looking at the crow and everything was of course shadow, right? That's like immediately what we want to think when we see a crow: shadow, death, regeneration, change, right? Communication heavily, because crows are so incredibly vocal. And like very intelligent. I was kind of talking about records, like, you know, that you can pull records from the energy around you and you can like recordings and things like that if you really just key into the energy of it. And so I know that sounds really crazy, but like, hear me out. With that crow, you know, even just sitting there and looking at the crow, feeling the need to connect with the crow, feeling the need to at least like admire the crow and acknowledge the crow, like in that exchange alone brought me to this message, right? And it's like to be open, even just a tiny little bit, even if the door that you open is just simple admiration for what it is that you're seeing or simple gratitude. It allows you to walk through something like it allows you to walk through that door and like totally uncover new stuff, new things, right? I need to also mind my mouth on this. I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm not, because if, you know, that's just, hey, but for the algorithm sake, I need to mind my mouth. I just get so excited. So anyway, shadow. I sat with this message. I pulled cards from the tarot, from my crow tarot, and some key phrases that came up was clouded perceptions, deep waters, murky visions, paths being blocked, things like that. Okay. What spirit really called me to was the image of first a path, like just like a dirt road. And one path it was two paths, one path, and it was two separate images. It wasn't together like, oh, here's a path, and they come together, something like that. Like it was like one path was blocked by a block, like a wall, like a cement wall that stretched all across both ways, right? You couldn't go around it, through it. There was no like obvious way to move around or past this block, right? The other path had like, what are those called? Like they look like tumbleweeds almost, but like a bunch of those like kind of, you know, interlocked across the path, but you could still see the rest of the earth that surrounded that path. And it was still like, okay, minor inconvenience was kind of the vibe that I got from that, like minor inconvenience, right? And so spirit then asked or said in my, you know, when I say spirit said, I'm not saying like somebody sat down in my brain and was like, hey, so like when I say spirit said, it's like a feeling, it's like a tap, like a jolt. It's like just something just feels like something's like clink, like plugged in, if that, makes sense. So when I say that, I just want to be clear on that. Like, I'm not like, hearing voices. Okay. But I see images, pictures flash through my mind. And so back to my path, I heard in my energetic ear, we need to know the difference between blocked and stalled. Like, there is a difference between blocked and stalled and the feelings that come with both of those. And what I had written down was, you can tell the difference between a blockage, right? Something that is unmovable, unshakable. You cannot get around it. It is there. It is boom. It is in your face. There's nothing you can do about it, right? You can tell the difference between a blockage or a stall, which is something that, like, okay, this is like I said, minor inconvenience, but okay, we can work with this energy. You can tell the difference between a block or a stall by the way you communicate with yourself. So what I mean by that, or what spirit means by that, what divine, God, whatever you want to call it, means by that is, if you're facing a blockage, right? It might sound like, okay, so let's say this, because this is actually the analogy that spirit gave me. Let's say this, you set intention for a job, you apply to the job, you do the work, right? You set intention, you do the work to bring it in, right? And it doesn't come, and it doesn't come, and it doesn't come, and it doesn't come. And instead of, maybe applying for a different job, or maybe, something like that, finding a solution or what have you, you kind of sit there in a space of, I'm not good enough. I'm obviously not good enough. Why did I even try? Why did I even go this way? Why did I, am I fucking stupid? Like, this isn't for me. Like, duh, I should have known that. If it were for me, like, I wouldn't have passed me. That's what they say. Like, so what, you know what I mean? Like, very, very critical, very, very self-critical, and very self-abandoning is the word that wants to come out. Like, you abandon yourself right then and there. You abandon your faith, you abandon your faith in yourself, your abilities, and everything that you worked on that led you to this point of taking this next step, right? That's a blockage, right? That's a blockage. It's very insurmountable, right? Once we get into those spaces, and this comes back to our shadow conversation, once we get into those spaces of, I can't, or this isn't mine, this isn't for me, obviously I'm XYZ, right? Obviously I'm incapable, I'm incompetent, obviously I lack, right? I missed something, right? When we go into that self-judgment and that place, we create a true blockage in our lives. Like, there's no energy can move in or out until we let it, until we allow it, right? The blockages, the stops, the pauses, all of that happens to, I don't want to say test to see if you're ready, but it's there to really make sure, to double check. It's kind of giving Mercury retrograde in the way. It doesn't necessarily have to be a retrograde in the stars for that to happen. It can be a retrograde within your own life, within your own intentions. Everybody has to go back to the drawing board. That's not something that even the most successful of people, right? And I'm using success in jobs like as an example because it's the easiest, most like way that all like the majority of us would understand, right? But you can apply this to any place in your life that you think of. When you think of it, you'll know that's for you. That's your part right there. That's what we need to look at for yourself. But when we are, when we are applying for these, I don't remember my train of thought, it'll come back to me, but when we're applying for these jobs, let me go back to, because I was talking about the difference between block and stall, right? When we stall, the difference there, you might, that's the branches in the way instead of the block in the way, right? The stall is, you communicate with yourself differently. It becomes more like, okay, well, while I'm here, I might as well While I'm here, maybe I should revamp my resume. While I'm in this space, maybe I should look at other ways, other jobs that I can do that are within the same ballpark. I know my skill set and I know that I'm good at this, so maybe I'll try here, right, as well. While I wait for this to come in as a yes or a no, it doesn't matter because I've already let it go. I've let it go. I am who I am, and I'm strong in who I am, and I know that what is for me will not pass me, and I don't have to just sit here and stare at this blockage and think, or this stall, and be like, clearly I'm a fucking idiot. You know? And so that's what I mean, and that's what spirit means to say with the, you know, the way that we communicate internally with ourselves is what tells us whether we are facing a blockage or whether we're facing a stall. Someone who's facing a stall has, I guess, a better way, a easy way to put it is when we're facing a stall, we still have growth mindset. You know, I don't know if you've heard the scarce mindset versus growth mindset, right? But there's still room to grow. There's still room to breathe. We've let in the light on the situation, regardless of how we might feel. Even if we're disappointed, we don't let that be the driving force or let that be in the driver's seat of our lives. We pivot, right? Our answer is to pivot, not necessarily stop the motion, but not like altogether, but maybe, like I said, we're going back to the drawing board. We're going back to see, is there something that we missed? And that's okay if we did. If there's something that we can do differently, is there something that we could have worded better or what have you, right? And it's being that honest self-assessment that is what allows us to continue that growth. And that kind of brings me back to what I was saying is like, I don't want to say it's a test because I don't necessarily believe in that, but I do think that certain aspects, themes repeat themselves so that we can really, the word is prime ourselves, condition ourselves, get stronger, and take on the next levels of our lives as we work towards our highest calling, right? Whatever that might be. And that can be in work or otherwise, you know? While I was saying that, that reminded me, I got a message too about like neuroplasticity in the brain, right? And how, and where this came from, let me actually reverse a little bit. Where is that card that brought that energy to me? It was the light of truth. It was this card here. And I don't want to take up too much time. This is already kind of a longer video and I really don't want to take up a lot of time. Otherwise, I could get into so much more on this. But if you want more videos from me, like, share, comment. I really want to, that's like the biggest thing too. Like, I really want to connect. I don't want to just like be talking to myself, you know? I want to connect with people. I want to talk. I want to be like, oh my God, how did this help you? Like, is there anything that I said that like stood out to you? Is there anything, you know, whatever. Or do you have like a request? Like, hey, can you do more pick-a cards? Hey, can you do that? I love that. So anyway, what brought me to the conversation of like brain and all that stuff was the light of truth and like the mushroom here at the bottom of this image, right? And it made me think immediately of mycelium. If you don't know what mycelium is, Cliff Notes is, it's basically the way that the way that the forest communicates with itself, right? Is through this network underground of mycelium that is, it's a fungus, right? And it communicates, right? And it helps create the ecosystem in the forest, from what I understand. So in that same way, I think of in the spirit of oneness, in the spirit of interconnectivity and how the world really reflects our inner world. Like the natural world, I should say, reflects our inner world. That reminds me of our brain synapses and how we process information and how we communicate with ourselves and how we think, our thinking patterns and the patterns of being that are based on the way that we think and feel about ourselves, right? And Spirit really wants to encourage whomever is listening, myself included, that, you know, we're here to create new, like, neural pathways, right? So it's not, we don't want you to look at something as a no, even if it is a no. We don't want that to be something that deflates you or tells you you're not good enough, right? If that's still happening, then you need to ask yourself why. That's why the blockage is happening. Like, you're blocked because that's still happening, right? That kind of conversation, the way that you are talking to yourself, your attitude about yourself and your power and what you can bring to the table is the word that came through is broken, and Spirit showing me a chair, like a four-legged chair, just a normal standard wooden chair with one leg broken off, right? Like, it cannot stand on its own. It cannot stand on three legs. It needs that fourth leg, right? It needs that. And without that, all the newness that will come to you from opening the store and walking through that path, all the newness will not have somewhere safe and stable to land, and it'll fall over. And Spirit doesn't want that for you. You don't want that for you. Nobody wants that, right? We want to be able to maintain our space and maintain and catch the blessings, right? Not let them slip through our fingers because we forced it, right? And there's a huge conversation here too about force and knowing, discerning like where we are in control of things and where we aren't. And honestly, there's a lot less that we have control, that we don't have control of, I would say, because the reality is that we have so much power over ourselves. We have, at the very end of the day, like we are the ones, we are the governor of our lives. We are the driver of our lives. And when we hand that over to outdated ideas about ourselves, when we hand our power out to something that we think we need, or something that we think, just like an old story, right? When we are like, oh, I'm not good enough, and we hand our power to that message, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you're going to see that you're going to continue to get things that validate that, because that's all you can see. That's all you're focused on, right? That's all we're focused on. But when we change, I think I've already said it. When we change our ways, right? When we change the way that we view information, when we change the way that we view ourselves within the information that we're receiving, when we change our perspective, when we gain another vantage point, when we actively, because this is an action, right? This isn't something that is passive and that'll just happen to you through fairy dust and hope. Like it's not. It's something that happens to you because you will it to be so. You will it. One of the cards, where is she? I got the Temperance card and also the High Priestess. These were like one of the only upright cards in this deck. In this specific pull was, the High Priestess and the Temperance card. And it's really just like us taking ownership and caring for the pause. There's a pause for a reason. And what do we do within that pause, that stall, that block? Is it a block or is it a stall? Only you can decide that, right? And you decide that based on the way that you communicate with yourself. If you hear yourself talking shit, then you probably have a blockage somewhere and we need to do some shadow work on that. If it's more like, okay, that's fine. How do I pivot, right? I'm not even worried about that. I planted my seed. I made my wish, right? I did all the work. That's going to grow or not grow. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to plant some more seeds and I'm going to till this land and I'm going to get ready for this, because I know, if it's meant for me, it'll come. And when it does come, I want to be ready for it, right? That's the difference. Really quick, I just want to share too the oracle cards that I got as well. I got spirit guides, ancestors, sage, sacred medicine, cleansing. So spirit guides, cleansing, dream time, and breath and mindfulness, as well as new beginnings. That's one from one deck. That's my Wisdom from the Elders deck. I'll post all the decks in the bottom. But really quick, I wanted to share the message here because there was so much about the subconscious, right? The subconscious came alive in this reading specifically, very heightened about that, about like really paying attention to our subconscious mind and the things that we tell ourselves and where those things come from, right? And like getting to the underbelly of things. The example is like, okay, I see this flower and I see that it is white, right? What does this flower represent for me, right? Like, so it's like, okay, we start with the logic, right? We start with what we see. I see this flower. I see that it is what? White. What does this flower represent for me? For me, it represents my husband, because he brought these home to me yesterday, because yesterday was our 10-year anniversary. What does that make me feel? What feelings does that bring up? It makes me feel appreciated. It makes me feel loved. It makes me feel seen. He got my favorite flowers. It makes me feel heard, so on and so forth, right? And that's just an example, very basic example. But to the kind of like line of questioning that Spirit was kind of putting on this reading was, look at it from your logical perspective, of course, and then peel it back. And then keep peeling and keep peeling and keep peeling. What is this? How does it make you feel? Why does it make you feel this way? Are these feelings something that you would want to change or not? And then go from there, right? Why or why not? So that's really where like Dreamcatcher came through. I don't even know if I said that. Dreamcatcher came through, and then also breath and mindfulness. I don't even know if I said that. I might have said that. I move really fast. But with the cleansing, the cleansing card, the Sage Sacred Medicine, that was coming through too as conversation, prayers. That came to my energetic like knowing was like prayers. The way that we talk to ourselves, the way, of course, but also the way that we talk to our spirit guides, our team, our ancestors, right? The things that we are petitioning for, and also for our actual bodies, the breath and the mindfulness, right? And it's like stopping ourselves, getting in our own way, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a positive way, like interrupting those thoughts that want to creep in and kind of like pull us back under the water, right? Pull us back into like living in the subconscious world where we only see all the failures, or we only see all the things that we got wrong, you know, because sometimes we can really condition ourselves to be in that mindset, and then it completely cuts off our like connection, like the proverbial, you know, umbilical cord that connects us to light and like resource, you know? So, and then of course, new beginnings, right? Springtime, you know, and of course that for me, when I read that in this capacity, it was really just, you know, about cycles, and like those things being necessary and movement being necessary. And in order to really step into the new, we have to deal with the old, right? We have to let things die. We have to let them go. I did get the Tower card as well. I got the Tower card here. I also, the Devil card as well. You know, like the stories that we tell ourselves, the beliefs that we carry, the bad habits, but also like the Devil card too doesn't always, what I said when I pulled it, I'm just remembering, was like, bitch, you ain't stuck. Like, bitch, that's a choice. You know what I mean? So we got to look at that. We got to be real. That's a choice. The other three, the three final oracle cards that I got. Sorry, let me just... Oh, and I also got the Ace of Cups to kind of go along with that spring, you know, new cycles, da-da-da-da-da. And like a new way of thinking, a new way of utilizing our intuition, a new way, again, neural pathways, right? Look that up. Look up neural pathways, neuroplasticity. Look that up, because that's like a lot. Like there's like burrowing energy here. Anyway, I said the Light of Truth. That was one that came through. And also Deep Healing and Cosmic Transformation. These are these two cards. Again, I'll post the card decks on the bottom of this video. But these were like, all of it was about transformation and kind of casting yourself in the fire a little bit, you know, because a lot of these cards were wands. And it's like just being like confronting yourself, right? Again, just for recap, you can tell the difference between a block or a stall by the way that you communicate with yourself. Okay, when you're faced with a challenge, how you react to it, how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself in that challenge is what will determine whether it is a stall or a block. And do with that information what you will. Ask yourself some questions, pull the thread, see where it goes, right? So we can really get this cleared up so that we can continue on our path, because we need you. We need you, we need you, we need you. Okay? I am sending all of my love. I am sending all of my support. I am sending food, nourishment, food for thought, food for the soul, food for your actual physical body. This is nourishing me in the way that it is allowing me to just experience deliciousness. This is an almond Danish. And it's so fire. You gotta get one. That's all the almonds falling off. But, indulge. There's a difference between indulgence and overindulgence. That's why there's the word over makes the difference in that. That's a slight difference. Overindulgence we want to avoid. But we always want to look at how we indulge in things, right? And we always want to make space and time to indulge. Have a little sweet, pull a little cards, light a little candle, go on a little walk, indulge,